In September 1970, thousands of Black people gathered in Atlanta, Georgia, for the Congress of African Peoples. 2 years later, the poet and organizer Imamu Amiri Baraka, once known as Leroy Jones, gathered the speeches and the workshop papers into a single volume he called African Congress, a documentary of what he named the first modern Pan-African Congress. He dedicated it to the elder Queen Mother Noor and called it a Kitabu Kuosi, a black book of direction for the decade to come. This is the record of 5 days in which mayors, ministers, poets, revolutionaries, and diplomats tried to forge one nation out of a scattered people. Their question rang through the hall again and again. What time is it? Nation time.
The Congress rested on a single conviction. All Black people on the continent and across the diaspora are one African people, bound racially, historically, culturally, politically, and emotionally. To say Black, the organizers wrote, is to say African. But unity did not mean sameness. Maulana Karenga gave the gathering its governing principle: operational unity, unity without uniformity. It was a way of thinking that let the Urban League's director exchange views with a Muslim minister, and a nationalist mayor sit beside an orthodox Pan-Africanist. Across 11 workshops, the delegates pursued one practical goal: the building of institutions, alternative African institutions able to govern, to feed, to teach, and to defend a people. The time for rhetoric, they declared, had finally passed.
First, the lineage the Congress claimed and the principle that held its many factions together.
Baraka placed the 1970 Congress in a long line of Pan-African gatherings. It began, he wrote, with the 4 congresses called by W.E.B. Du Bois, reaching the Manchester Conference of 1945, the 5th Pan-African Congress, pulled together by George Padmore and Du Bois, where the phrase Pan-Africanism first entered common circulation. Its immediate forebears were the Black Power Conferences of 1966 in Washington, 1967 in Newark, and 1968 in Philadelphia, with an international meeting in Bermuda in 1969. The Congress, Baraka said, re-manifested the ideas of great Africans: Blyden, Garvey, Du Bois, Casely Hayford, Nyerere, Nkrumah, Touré, Elijah Muhammad, and Malcolm X. Above all, it sought the synthesis Hayford had spoken of, combining the views of Africans on the continent with those of Africans living in the West.
The principle that made such a broad gathering possible came from Maulana Karenga, the founder of the Kawaida doctrine and the creator of the Nguzo Saba. He called it operational unity, unity without uniformity. The body of the nation, Baraka explained, must stay in constant communication, one part with the others, or there would be minimum movement all around. He compared it to the United Front of the Vietnamese, in which Catholics and Buddhists, socialists and believers in free enterprise joined around ideas that would finally liberate them all. The organizers warned against the opposite temptation, the tendency to neophyte, to assume you are the blackest soul on the planet, and to hostilize the rest of your own community. They sought, instead, a unity based on program rather than on ideology.
The chairman who opened the gathering was Hayward Henry, a 27-year-old scholar from Harvard's Afro-American Studies Department and the National Black Caucus of the Unitarian Universalist Church. He set the call and response that would echo for 5 days. What time is it? Nation time. He drew a sharp line for the delegates. This is not a conference, brothers and sisters, he told them. This is a Congress. The time for calling conferences, for rapping for freedom, was over. He named 4 non-negotiable demands. African people, he said, must govern themselves, provide for themselves, respect themselves, and defend themselves. The work ahead, he insisted, was intensive problem solving, the building of institutions, and not another round of speeches in praise of a freedom no one yet possessed.
Now, the voices themselves, the men and women who rose to address the assembled nation. Ralph Abernathy, who had inherited the Southern Christian Leadership Conference from the slain Martin Luther King, welcomed the Congress to Atlanta. This was the city of Du Bois, he reminded them, the city of Sherman's march, the city of King's birth. You may have been able to kill the prophet, he declared, but I'll be dogged if you will kill the dream. The night before, Muhammad Ali had reclaimed his place in the ring, and Abernathy joked that Ali had more power in his fists than the white man had in his bank downtown. He named the segregationists Eastland, Thurmond, Talmadge, Russell, and proposed his own draft, calling up men from 65 years of age downward. Yet he warned the delegates plainly, do not expect unanimity this week from a people who have never seen it, even among whites. Kenneth Gibson had just become the first black mayor of Newark, the city Baraka called Newark, won through a black and Puerto Rican convention that also elected 3 councilmen. Power, Gibson reminded them, was built by unity, for the only thing that comes to a sleeper is a dream. He quoted Malcolm, "You don't catch hell because you are Baptist or Catholic or Muslim. You catch hell because you are black." Beside him stood John Cashin, the Alabama dentist whose National Democratic Party, marked on the ballot by an eagle, had swept Greene County, 6 seats out of 6. Our salvation, Cashin said, comes from within ourselves, for no people can be freed inside an institution their enemies control. Together, they argued for a black political party on the model of the one-party African state. Jesse Jackson, leading Operation Breadbasket out of Chicago, gave the Congress one of its great metaphors. "We've got to go home," he said, "but we can't take the short route. Africa by Pan American Airlines was the short way home. The long way home was psychological, the building of a new mind. Pan-Africanism," he argued, had been born as a reaction to genocide, to the 1875 Geographical Congress in which Leopold and Rhodes carved up the continent, for the name of the game has always been land. He named 4 stages: personalism, localism, nationalism, internationalism, and he turned the diaspora's spending power into a weapon. "Stop dealing in lip service about Africa," he urged, "and start dealing in ship service with Africa. Snatch your billions from the American economy," he warned, "and it will collapse." Whitney Young, national director of the Urban League and the most establishment voice present, refused to trade in rhetoric. "We can disagree," he said, "without becoming disagreeable." He laid out 4 kinds of power. Firepower he rejected, for a society that would kill its own at Kent State would not hesitate to kill those it called alien. Economic power he embraced, citing the boycotts of Montgomery, Jackson's breadbasket, and the Muslims' cooperatives, and calling for reparations and a domestic Marshall Plan. Brain power, he said, was the resource on which any strategy finally depends. Political power was the black community's most powerful immediate weapon. And to those who dreamed of mass departure, he was blunt. "Forget it," he said. "We are here to stay." Within months, Whitney Young would be dead. Louis Farrakhan rose to deliver the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, with the widow of Malcolm X seated in the hall. "You cannot lead black people from the top of the mountain," he said. "You have to come down into the valley." The gravest problem facing black people, he declared, was the unity of all black men the world over. The first revolution was the overthrow of the government of the mind, for slavery had stripped a people of their names and their very selves. If the revolution of the mind does not take place, he warned, you are still the white man's slave in a dressed-up way. He pointed to Muhammad's farms across Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi as proof of self-sufficiency,
because when a man has your breadbasket, he has you. Black, he insisted, is not national. Black is universal. Howard Fuller, president of Malcolm X Liberation University, read a message from Stokely Carmichael in Conakry, Guinea. Pan-Africanism, it said, is the highest political expression of Black power. Slogans arouse the people, but ideology guides them. Fuller then offered hard definitions. A nation is a people with common customs rooted in the same land, and land is the basis of all power. Africans are all those whose customs are rooted in the continent and whose features are Black. We are not Afro-Americans, he insisted. We are Africans. He named the settler colonies, Australia, Angola, Mozambique, Rhodesia, even America itself, and traced the ladder of force from the city police up to NATO and beyond. Quoting Nkrumah, he concluded that it is far better to be free to govern or misgovern yourself than to be governed by anyone else. Richard Hatcher, the mayor of Gary, Indiana, and one of the first Black mayors of a major American city, took apart the two words, Black power. He quoted Malcolm, that you cannot understand Mississippi without understanding the Congo, and Baldwin, that the Black American remained a stranger in the American village. He rejected a mass return to Africa, arguing that Black people owned a good part of these United States, morally if not legally. His ground was the city. Before the decade was out, he predicted, Black mayors would govern at least 19 large and medium cities, even as whites changed the rules through metropolitan government and flight to the suburbs. His warning became the line delegates carried home. The time has come, he said, when Black people must stop electing public officials and begin to select them. Julian Bond, the Georgia legislator and former voice of the student movement, told the Congress they had done a Black thing in the very heartland of the beast. He honored Atlanta's dead and its scholars, especially Du Bois, who had organized the first scientific, long-range study of Black people, and Bishop Henry McNeill Turner, an early prophet of return to Africa. He warned against unreliable allies. The AFL and CIO, he said, are not our friends, and the peace and environmental movements would always subordinate Black needs to their own. He called for a unity that joined the boys on the block with the bourgeoisie. He closed with Du Bois, "You have a continent to regain." The Congress was Pan-African in fact as well as in name, and the world's liberation fronts sent their own. Among the continental guests was Ambassador El Hajj Abdoulaye Touré, representing the Republic of Guinea, the home of Sékou Touré, and the place of exile of Stokely Carmichael. He apologized for speaking French, for it is the fault of imperialism, he said, that has forced Black people to communicate with each other in alien tongues. Then he brought the greetings of a continent. Mother Africa, he told the delegates, thinks about her brothers and sisters carried away in slavery, and Mother Africa is in this struggle with you. Your contribution to the total liberation of Africa, he said, is absolutely necessary. It was the synthesis the whole Congress had been built to achieve, the continent and the diaspora speaking at last as a single people across the ocean that had divided them. 2 delegates carried the war for the continent's last colonies into the hall. Evelyn Kawanza of the Zimbabwe Action Group described the liberation movements ZAPU and ZANU, the flat terrain that gave guerrillas little cover, and the political prisoners held without trial since 1964. She asked for a relief fund and a committee of friends for Zimbabwe. Raymond Mambala of the revolutionary government of Angola traced the rising that began on the 1st of March 1961 when 60,000 Angolans rose against Portuguese rule, met by napalm and a caste system of assimilated and native. Our unity, he said, is in the color of our skin and in our common suffering. He denounced NATO, which he renamed the North American Terrorist Organization, and asked the delegates to boycott Gulf oil and the cork and goods of Portugal. Roosevelt Douglas of the Organization of Black People's Union and a teacher at McGill reminded the Congress that Pan-Africanism had Caribbean roots. The first Pan-African Congress in London in 1900 had been organized by the Trinidad-born Henry Sylvester Williams, and he honored Marcus Garvey, whom the other speakers had neglected, the Jamaican who had built the largest movement of Black people the world had ever seen. There were 130 million Africans in the Americas, Douglas noted, against 35 million in the United States. He himself faced trial the next morning in Montreal over the Sir George Williams affair, with possible life in prison. Genocide, he warned, is right around the corner, and our only guarantee against it is whether we are prepared to fight, to give our lives, and to kill for our people. It fell to the man who had called the Congress to gather its many voices into one. Imamu Amiri Baraka, founder of the Committee for Unified Newark and program chairman of the Congress, closed the speeches. The purpose, he said, had been to draw all the many kinds of Black people together as one African nation rising again. From the political workshop, he announced, would come a national, international, nationalistic, pan-Africanistic political party, a model for the nation becoming. But he warned against illusions. There is no such thing as instant revolution, he said, and a people will be slaves as long as they are not yet qualified to be free. The nationalist, he declared, must be the spine of the Black nation. Then he gave them the greeting of Newark and the title of his poem. What time is it? It's nation time. What's going to happen? The land is going to change hands. Beyond the speeches lay the real work. 11 councils charged with building the machinery of a nation. The Congress adopted its ideological statement on the 6th of September. It defined 4 ends of Black power: self-determination, self-sufficiency, self-respect, and self-defense. The last meaning to struggle against those who struggle against you, and to make peace with those who make peace with you. Self-sufficiency would rest on ujamaa, cooperative economics. All Black people were declared Africans, joined racially, historically, culturally, politically, and emotionally. For to say Black is to say African. Pan-Africanism was named the global expression of Black nationalism, aiming at what Nkrumah and Sekou Touré had called the African personality. The 11 work councils were to be the institution-building mechanisms of this program, and the delegates sought, above all, a unity based on program rather than on ideology. The political workshop, coordinated by Baraka, sought the largest institution of all, a nation, built through a World African Political Party. Such a party would have to work in 4 areas of political power: public office, community organization, alliances and coalitions, and disruption, whether actual or merely threatened. It would be a Ujamaa party, accountable to its people and willing to raise the hardest questions. The workshop weighed and set aside 3 popular but limited ideas: a mass return to Africa, separation, and instant revolution, concluding that Black people around 1970 were not going anywhere. Its resolutions were concrete: build Congress offices and register voters, create an international development bank, raise dollars and 4,000 combat boots for the Tanzania to Zambia Railroad and Africa's liberation armies, and forge a front linking the revolutionary workers, the Panthers, and the Republic of New Africa. If the political workshop sought a party at home, its resolutions reached across the whole world. The delegates from Suriname, led by Cyril Karg, called for a world Black economic structure and warned that if the United Nations would not act for African people, then Africans must build their own. an organization of Black United Nations of the world, backed by a boycott of Holland and every colonial power. The workshop proposed an International Development Union of African People and a Black International Development Bank. It demanded a Black ceasefire with the Vietnamese and the release of what it called Black prisoners of war, the men sent to die in another people's country. And it imagined an African Liberation Front joining the League of Revolutionary Black Workers, the Black Panther Party, and the Republic of New Africa into a single fighting body. The Congress's boldest demand came from Imari Abubakari Obadele and the Republic of New Africa, a movement whose founders included the elder to whom this book is dedicated, Queen Mother Moore. The Republic claimed 5 states of the Deep South: Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina, by what it called the civilized rule of land possession, for Black people had lived on that land, built on it, and fought to stay. It argued that Black people had never truly been made citizens, that the 14th Amendment had imposed citizenship on a free people without their consent. It proposed a plebiscite, a free vote on the nation's future, and demanded a settlement with reparations, whatever each person chose, a nation of their own, citizenship, or return. Yes, the paper declared, an independent Black nation in our time, in this place. The Social Organization Workshop built on Karenga's Kawaida doctrine, treating the family as the smallest model of the whole nation. Its resource paper, The Black Family, called the roles of man and woman complementary rather than identical, and dismissed the matriarchy myth as a foreign invention. An African proverb gave it weight. The destruction of a nation, it ran, begins in the homes of its people. The workshop offered a full African marriage rite, sworn for as long as the sun shines and the water flows, and a complete guide to Kwanzaa, the 7-day festival with its mat and candle holder, its ears of corn, and its gifts. At its heart stood the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles: Umoja, Kujichagulia, Ujima, Ujamaa, Nia, Kuumba, and Imani. Unity, self-determination, collective work, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith.
Other councils took up the inner life of the nation, its art, its faith, its science, and its memory. The Creativity Workshop, led by the poet Larry Neal, declared that creativity is the soul of the nation. Black culture in the West, it acknowledged, was a neo-African hybrid, but it was real and it was a weapon. Neal banned what he called blacker-than-thou posturing and endless theorizing, demanding instead the building of institutions. The new Lafayette Theater donated its very facility to the cause. The poet Don L. Lee, later Haki Madhubuti, set out the Black aesthetic in his essay Dynamite Voices. "We are Black men who happen to write," he insisted, "not writers who happen to be Black." Black art was functional and collective. Art for art's sake, he said, was something out of a European dream. The workshop proposed a Pan-African Artists Alliance, a national Black music orchestra, and a Pan-African Festival of World African Arts. The Black Technology Workshop insisted that a free people must master the modern tools of power. Technology, one paper argued, is simply a systematic method, and it must be subordinated to human and African values, not the other way around. A doctor, Hubert Hemsley, laid bare a health crisis in which poverty itself was among the leading causes of death, and Black life expectancy ran years shorter than white, proposing community-owned health centers against what the delegates called health colonialism. And the workshop issued a sober warning to a movement fond of revolutionary talk. Just as our ancestors with spears were no match for Europeans with muskets, the paper read, a technically illiterate people are no match for a technically proficient oppressor. In this technological age, it concluded, simply picking up the gun is suicide.
they called for a Pan-African Institute of Technology and a skills bank.
The religion workshop opened with the historian Yosef ben Jokananan and a startling claim that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are African in origin. Moses, he argued, was an indigenous African, for Egypt is in Africa, and the Ten Commandments drew on the philosophy of the Nile Valley developed thousands of years before Moses was born. He cited stolen legacy, the argument that Greek philosophy itself came from the people of North Africa. The workshop's resource paper went further. Religion, it held, is built on mythology, including the very idea of a chosen people, and the black god must be historical, beneficial, and like us. The Christian, it declared bluntly, has been our worst enemy, for it was the Christian who enslaved us. The delegates called for a revolutionary theology, not a plantation theology, and embraced disciplined eating and fasting. The education workshop, led by Preston Wilcox, opened with Du Bois, the seventh son born with a veil, and declared that education is an act, not a resolution. It is the struggle itself, not the preparation for it. It denounced black studies that had been watered down into white studies with black labels, and called for independent black institutions moving toward a national Pan-African university, and for a Black Studies consortium named for Du Bois or Carter Woodson. Newark's African Free School showed the model, teaching customs, history, Swahili, art, reading, and mathematics through a single integrated lesson. And a remarkable paper on pre-colonial African education argued that traditional learning had been collective and lifelong, where school and life are one, carried through games, work, stories, riddles, and the ceremonies of initiation. The Community Organization Workshop drew on the Newark model, 3 steps: mobilize, nationalize, and organize, joined by operational unity. Its most striking paper came from Chief Master Sergeant Milton White, who had founded a Malcolm X association among black airmen at a strategic air command base. The military had first approved it and then reversed itself, because, White wrote, the white man was not about to permit the Malcolmization of his troops. The name itself carried 5 imperatives: dignity, indignation, independence, utility, and revolution. A second report on racism in the United Service Organizations opened with King's Riverside speech against the war and charged that the USO had become a multi-million-dollar adjunct to a program of genocide, recruiting the very soldiers sent to fight other colonized peoples. The Law and Justice Workshop, coordinated by Raymond Brown, began by taking the word justice apart, recalling that the powerful have always defined it as their own interest. The American legal system, the delegates resolved, was an instrumentality by which colonized peoples are suppressed, and a common law that valued property over persons. They proposed the Nguzo Saba, Karenga's 7 principles, as the seed of a new legal and moral code, and demanded community control of the police. The Republic of New Africa's paper condemned what it called the most atrocious penal system in the world, prisons that make inmates criminal, and dreamed instead of a city where the imprisoned might move about freely. Methadone, the workshop charged, was itself an act of aggression against the African race, and lawyers were urged to raise the question of black citizenship in every court. The History Workshop, anchored by John Henrik Clarke, distinguished the history writer who records what the powerful dictate from the historian who builds a people's sense of themselves. Clarke offered a 15-session guide to African history based on the works of Basil Davidson, carrying students from humanities origins in Africa through Egypt and Kush, the empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, the stone city of Zimbabwe, the rise of Shaka, the catastrophe of the slave trade, and the long resistance down to independence. the workshop's central resolution was a reversal of the usual frame. Colonialism and slavery, the historians wrote with Yosef Ben-Jochanan, must be developed as mere episodes in the general history of the African motherland. European contact must be seen as an incident on the African canvas, not the canvas itself. The communications workshop, led by Tony Brown of the program Black Journal, called the mass media a weapon turned against its subjects. Its traditional use in this country, the delegates declared, had been to oppress non-whites and to entertain whites, and television was the most effective brainwashing tool ever devised. They counted the cost of exclusion. Not a single television station in the United States had a black general manager, and of some 7,000 radio stations, barely 10 were owned by black people. The new systems then emerging, cable and cartridge, must be controlled by blacks before the door closed again. The workshop resolved to build a communications network feeding all 11 councils, to expand the journal Umoja as the Congress's own voice, to acquire television channels, and to train a generation of black communicators. The economics workshop, coordinated by Dunbar McLaren, who had coined the word Getonomics, faced a stark arithmetic. Black people were 21% of the population, the delegates noted, yet owned less than 3% of the businesses and 1/100% of the assets. A man who is not economically free, they declared, is still a slave. They rejected capitalism's claim that competition matters more than cooperation and embraced Ujamaa, with a permanent fund, an internal economy built for maximum provision rather than maximum profit, and an external trade reaching toward an alternative world market among the Afro-Asian nations. An African proverb framed the whole effort. If you don't know where you're going, it warned, any road will take you there. The Congress meant at last to know exactly where it was going. What gathered in Atlanta from the 3rd to the 7th of September was less a meeting than a nation in embryo. The roll of organizations represented ran to hundreds, drawn from dozens of cities: the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and CORE, the Institute of the Black World, the Republic of New Africa, the Committee for Unified Newark and its African Free School, the Student Organization for Black Unity, the Association of Black Psychologists, churches and cooperatives, student unions and theater companies. To keep that body alive between gatherings, the economics workshop urged a year-round Congress with a permanent staff and a settled home, so that the resolutions would not die when the delegates went back to their cities. The Congress, in other words, was trying to become an institution itself, the first cell of the very nation its workshops had spent 5 days designing. When the 5 days ended, the Congress of African Peoples had not built a nation, but it had drawn its blueprint. In 11 workshops, it had imagined the institutions of a people: a party, a bank, schools and theaters, courts and clinics, a press and a faith, all turned toward one another across the ocean that slavery had opened. Baraka called the record a black book of direction for the decade to come and dedicated it to Queen Mother Moore. Its lessons outlived its specific demands: the discipline of operational unity, the insistence on institutions over rhetoric, the conviction that a scattered people might yet act as one. "What time is it?" they had asked again and again in Atlanta, and 5,000 voices had answered, "Nation time."